Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining again. 8th webinar now in the career planning series based and focused around revenue management. Great to have you here. And I sort of just said a second ago, but I just really wanted to say thank you so much to many of you who have sent me really kind messages and emails and things over the last few weeks, but particularly actually the last week and a bit. And I just want to say, look, I really do appreciate it, because when I started this, wasn't quite sure how, whether it was needed, whether people would be interested, whether it had any value, and I just really appreciate the kind messages that you've sent to say how useful you found it and that sort of thing. So look, I really do appreciate that. Thank you, because it makes me understand how worthwhile it's been, and it is. So, quite a lot of work goes into some of the weeks, particularly with the research we do and finding speakers and stuff. Today, you're stuck with me for the whole webinar, mainly because I do a lot of this sort of stuff. So, I'd like to think I've got a pretty good understanding of what you need to be doing and what to think about. So, today is about creating a brand of you. This is really important, probably more so than people really understand, because it doesn't really come up in any career webinars, really. It doesn't come up at school or talking about career development. It's just not really mentioned. So I think it's not given perhaps sometimes the priority that it should be. What I want to talk about predominantly is we're going to focus heavily around social media, because that's where, in reality, a lot of our time is spent, and a lot of focus comes around in how to build your profile. So, what I want you to think about with this is your online persona, your online profile should really reflect your personal values. It is social media, so it should really reflect your personality, and you should put your personality across. And it's a way to illustrate, and it's a shop window for your professional skills. So what you share, what you react to, what you create, the content you create, all reflects on you. And I think always bear that in mind. We'll come to some things later on. So, you could be controversial if you want to be on social media. There's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to bear in mind that the more controversial, you have to live and die by the sword. So, what you post, you will be having to own and take responsibility for down the line. So it's up to you how you use it, but it's about understanding that it's a big shop window, and whatever you decide to do, you have to stand by. The other thing I'd say with social media and with building your brand and your profile is two things. Be intentional with what you do. So make sure that you are purposeful. You are posting things because they have an intention. You know what the end result's going to be. And the second thing actually is exactly that, is be outcome focused. Understand what you're trying to gain from using social media. So in other words, I use it for three things. I use it for raising the profile of my business, MRK, for attracting people to come and work for me. I raise it in terms of trying to develop relationships with employers and show that we understand the market and we are knowledge experts. And I also work to build relationships and build a network within the sort of job seeker community. And hence some of this revenue management webinars is all around trying to build relationships and allow people hopefully to have confidence. We know what we're talking about, and if ever they look for a job, they know where we are and we can help them. So I have three things to think about and hence why I probably use social media so much. Whereas you guys might look at it more from simply a raising profile, so that you can start to be seen as someone knowledgeable, and your profile is then at a level where people might come to you for jobs and opportunities might come to you, and you can get more involved and asked to be involved on webinars and those sorts of things. They're all good profile builders, and we'll come on to all that. So the first thing I'd say with social media is organize your sites. So what I mean by that is, I'll tell you what, actually, do you know what I've missed out? I've missed out my favorite bit. So we've got a poll. We have a poll. How much do you use social media for work purposes? We've only got the one today. How much do you use social media for work purposes? All the time, pretty often, occasionally not much. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So there you go. So a couple of people all the time, and then spread not much, occasionally, pretty often. Okay, and I think that's probably about right. You guys have got your day job, you're doing revenue management or reservations or revenue analyst work or whatever it is your roles are, and it's not going to be the main part of your job. However, what I'm hoping you'll find from this today is once we go through it and I show you the hints and tips and the importance of certain things, I'm hoping you will start to see that actually using it more regularly, maybe not using it, I don't want you using it too much, but actually using it consistently will really help you build your brand and how you do that. And I think you might find that pretty often people might use it in a slightly different way, and the not so much, and occasionally people might use it a little bit more often. Okay, good. For those of you that were a little bit late, there, if you haven't seen this link, okay, so that link, if you can put it into Google, and that's what Joe, if people can see Joe's score, pop that link, and I do want you all to do it now, and I want people to put their scores on if you don't mind. So that link will show you what your social selling score is on LinkedIn. So if you can pop to Google, pop in that link, and it should show you a score for your LinkedIn profile. Nothing to be ashamed of, and I'll show you mine in a few minutes. 29, and I think the scores for a lot of you guys that don't use it that much, I think the scores will be somewhere between 25 and 50. The positive thing is I think you'll get a lot out of today. Okay, so 29, 49, 47, 29. Yeah, okay, sounds about right. Okay, good. So we'll come back to that in a few minutes. Bear those scores in mind, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. So with social media, think of over time. Oh, good score, like Mark. But Mark, you're I think you do. Mark, I know, does more of a consultancy type role, and therefore probably is on social media a little bit more than other people. Maybe use it a little bit more. So some good scores there from a few people up in the 60s, which is good. So right, good. We'll come back to that. So with social media, as social media has developed, and I guess we've all grown up with it. Perhaps some of you are younger than me, so I'm basically probably about 20 when it all started kicking off. A lot of us have got sites, or we're on different social media sites like MySpace, or Bebo, I think was another one, where actually they were when we were young, they're not relevant, and there could be things on there that might be not the most professional thing, but they're sites that we don't use anymore. So the first thing I say is get your sites organized. Think about what sites am I going to use. Don't try and use every social media because you haven't got time, and also you will spread yourself too thinly. Pick one or two that you're going to use and use them regularly and use them properly. And by far the biggest recommendation I can say for you is use LinkedIn. It's where most activity happens. Twitter can be useful, but Twitter can often be useful for more getting into discussions on certain topics. And actually I think Twitter is often a little bit more useful around rather than building your profile in an industry. It's where you are looking at a particular topic like Brexit, hashtag Brexit, and the topic, and then the conversation works around that hashtag. I'm not going to go into Twitter today because I'm not an expert on it, but so I'm going to focus a lot of this on LinkedIn. But get your social sites up to date, get any incriminating evidence off. It's only going to be detrimental to you. Content is about trying to be positive, and we'll come on to that in a minute. I also do know people, if particularly any of you on here that maybe are consultants or want to head down into a consultancy route in the future, I do know people that create their own website, because the content that you might create for social media, you can put on your own website. Just a thought. Area of expertise. So this is about, we've spoken in previous webinars so far around the duties and the skills that give you satisfaction and to build your career on. We've spoken about different cultures, different sized businesses, and we've spoken about the different routes you could head down. So we had data analytics, we had the revenue management route, going more strategic into commercial director and general managers. We also spoke about consulting, academia, systems, revenue management systems type stuff. So there's different routes you can go down. And what I would say is, with the social media you do, and in line with the comment I said at the beginning about it, be intentional with it, think about what route you're going to go down and try and focus on what you're building your knowledge and input and opinion in that area. Now, if that's an area that you don't have any knowledge of at the moment, so let's say you want to push into a systems type career, but you've not done a lot of systems, then what I would say is, what you want to research, we'll come on to how you do this, but you want to research your systems knowledge. You want to find the key contacts in the industry and then develop relationships with them, start to get to know them, start to build and be able to then put opinion in place and build your expertise, because you're going to have to change what your expertise is. Currently it's revenue management and you need to develop it into systems. So we'll come on to a bit of how to do that. I think if we'll also look at later on, I'll actually share my profile with you and we'll have a look at things. Have a look at the views and what, have a look at what industry leaders are doing. Have a look at who's viewed your profile. When you've put a post on LinkedIn, for instance, have a look at the views it gets. And look at the posts which are more successful than others and try and understand why. Can you see the trends and then try and duplicate that process? Learn from your posts and learn from your audience and try and develop what you're posting, and you'll be more successful with it. So, sharing content. Again, this is about being intentional. You don't have to come up with original content all the time. You know, it's not about you having to write lots and lots of blogs. You're not marketers. You know, you don't have to have, you know, this groundbreaking new thought process all the time. There's lots of places to find interesting information and to share that. So I'll show you where to find some of that later on. In fact, actually, one of the things I've mentioned now is you can set up Google Alerts. You can use what are called news aggregators. So there's a website called Feedly, which is F for Freddy. In fact, I'll pop it in the chat window, but it's F for Freddy, EEDLY. And you can go onto Feedly and you can put in the subjects that you want news and information sent to you. And what you'll then find is you have a place where interesting stuff gets sent to you about whatever market it is you're after. And then what you can do, you can share that content on LinkedIn. That will give you content, and then you can start putting your opinion on that and seeing who else shares it, who else likes it. What I'd say is, don't overpost generally on LinkedIn. So this is what I'm saying about, you know, you've still got your day job to do. So don't try and spend too much time on social media. You want to be posting 1 or 2 times a day. That's all. LinkedIn, actually, if you overpost, LinkedIn doesn't really like it and often will not put your posts as high in the feed as it should go. And also, if you overpost and some feeds and too many of your posts don't get many likes or looks or views, then also LinkedIn starts to see you as not a very good contributor to the LinkedIn posts. 4th point, create your own content. Oh, Mark's just put, I got a logo from Fiverr, which I was very happy with. Should I pay someone to develop a website? Any recommendations? Who? Let me come on to that. I'll come on to that in a few minutes. There's loads of people that can develop websites. In fact, I'll mention it now. Loads of people that can develop websites. If you're going to do it, I would shop around. there will be plenty of people you know who have had websites done who will be able to recommend good people. I can recommend you a couple actually, if no problems at all. So if you want, drop me a message on LinkedIn and I'll give you a couple of names, because they're not expensive. You can make them really easily and cheaply, but they can be quite good, particularly if you're a sort of consultant, as you are, Mark. So create your own content. Just going to keep an eye on time, and it's easy for me to overrun on this subject. Create content. So as much as it's good to share and share other people's content, you do want to be seen to be original. You do want to be seen as having an opinion. So I think that can either be sharing something you've seen and then writing out your own synopsis of it. Give it your opinion, give it your conclusion, because you're still putting your view. And I know Mark actually did that on a webinar he did, because he works in the car parking revenue management world, and he wrote a really good sort of synopsis and overview of the webinar he'd been on, and I shared that, and that was a good post. So that's, you know, by getting the information from Feedly, by thinking about things that happen at your workplace, by even your own personal experiences. Think about maybe your business has put in a new system. You can just write a short blog, doesn't have to be very long, around perhaps what you think could have been done differently, or what things, and don't give information that's confidential, but more about maybe what you think systems should be doing from your experiences of that process. The other thing I'd say on that is it's not all about you. So if you're going to write about personal experiences, don't make it too personal. Don't make it, and don't drag it out too long. You want to show what you're trying to do in that situation, show you've had an experience, and then you're commenting on it and how things, what your thoughts on it are, and allow other people to comment. The other thing I would say with that is check your employment contract, because a lot of companies, in fact all companies now, have a social media policy in your employment contract. Most companies nowadays understand that the employees are as big a positive advocate for their business as they are themselves. So they allow people to post on social media for work and to do that. But just check your contract, because some of them do restrict people to do certain things. But ideally, you do want to work for a business that understands the importance of positive feedback, positive social media, and they should be allowing their staff to add value through content. However, you are representing that business, so be careful what you write. This is what I was saying about don't be too controversial. Grow your network. So first thing I'd say with this is, when you write your own content or share others, and you'll see this in a minute when I show you my profile, the main people that will like that will be your first degree connections, your immediate connections. They will, that market, that network is you're all in it together. They're connected with you because they understand you, what you do, their colleagues or their friends or their acquaintances, and they will help you naturally. They will be the ones that like your content. So grow your network and make your network as big as possible. Now, don't connect with people that are irrelevant and a waste of time, because actually it's pointless. And your feed will end up being full of stuff which is irrelevant. Link in with all your colleagues, your work colleagues. I know some people find that a bit odd, but it's by far the easiest thing to do, because they become your immediate connections. They like your content, and therefore your content goes to all their connections. The other thing I'd say is you can go into Outlook, and actually you can import your Outlook connections into LinkedIn. It's easy to do. I'm not going to show you now, but actually if you can Google, and actually if you go on LinkedIn, it's really easy to do that. And that can help you put all your Outlook connections into LinkedIn. I would say, again, be careful not to have a load of irrelevant people on there, but go through your Outlook connections and think to yourself, am I connected to this person? And make sure they're important, and be intentional with it. Keep it positive. So think of your social media interactions as your online CV. It's your window for your professional attitude. So keep it positive. You can be controversial. You don't have to stick to what everyone else likes, and you can have your own opinion. It's no problems. And I do that quite regularly. Be prepared for people to bite back and to, you know, don't get in an argument on social media. Don't use it when you've been out, you know, with friends on a Friday night. You know, be sensible with it. But you're allowed your own opinion. I think the other thing I'd say about controversy is be careful with it. If there's nothing wrong with being controversial, but I think if you're being controversial about something that is completely against the normal line of thought, imagine you were in the office. If you were in your office and you said something that was just hugely controversial, you would have one or two people in the office probably turn around and say, I don't agree with you. And how that conversation develops depends on their personalities probably. But remember, when you do that online, two things. Firstly, you're doing that to a bigger audience. Secondly, it's also written down and is then there to stay. So what happens is that you have to live and die by that. You have to be responsible for that, for what you write. And because this is a professional site and potential future employees will be looking at it, there's nothing wrong writing anything you strongly believe in, but just realize that you have to stand by that down the line. Anything else on there? I've written a load of notes today just because there's so much to talk about and all this. I just don't want to miss anything. If you want to be controversial, by the way, on really strong topics, I would suggest do that on your personal social media, not on work. Remember, it's a professional site. Find and join groups. This is how are we doing time? Yeah, we're okay. So find and join groups. Look for industry relevant groups, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Look for groups on key topics. You'll find there's a mix of groups. Some of them have a large amount of followers, and they're good because it means they're popular groups, and you'll probably find a lot of content. But because there's so many people, it is more difficult to be heard if you write your opinion. You can join smaller groups where there's less people, and often they're very niche. Often they'll be, if you pick the right groups, they'll be a really good source of people for you, and you'll be able to get more involved with the conversation because there's less people on it. So you want a mix of groups. On the groups, you'll find that there's lots and lots of discussions. Jump into those, get involved, have an opinion. But what I would say is if you're in a group where you don't know much about the discussion, research it before you input into it, because there is nothing that makes you stand out in a not so positive way as if you put a comment that doesn't make sense. Don't be scared of making a comment, but just make sure you've done your research. Also, by being a member of lots of different groups, you'll find a discussion happens in one group that you can learn and read about, and you don't have to input into it. And then actually something similar will happen in another group at a later date, and then you can input because you've got the knowledge. So you can work different groups off each other. What the groups will add for you, the groups are really important. So the groups you'll be able to help others. You'll be able to build your knowledge. You'll be able to expand your skills and your network because you can send connection invites to people who are in these groups. You'll build your confidence as you start to get more and more involved in them. You'll be able to get ideas from them. And often it's ideas for content yourself or for posts that you want to write. You'll discover new opportunities. There'll be definitely things you'll hear about and opportunities will come around. And more importantly, you'll build relationships, and that will help you further down the line. So the groups we'll look at in a minute are really important. And then the last point is mentors and industry leaders. Again, it's a bit like groups. Find who the influencers are in your industry, in whatever area it is you want to talk about. It could be revenue systems, it could be revenue management itself, etc., academia. Follow them. Get to know what they talk about. Don't try and be too friendly with them too quickly. They don't know who you are. They have a lot of followers. And also what you'll need to do is just every now and again comment on what they write. There was a gentleman, for instance, called Robert Cross in the States who I read a couple of his blogs at the beginning of lockdown, and they were just absolutely brilliant. They articulated perfectly the problems, the challenges of the industry. He spelt out the topics really well. I just thought they were excellent. And I sent him an invite and just said, I've read a couple of your blogs. They're the best blogs I've written. I've read. I've shared them. I hope you don't mind. Love to connect with you, and just keep an eye on your, on what you're writing about. And he wrote me a really nice email message back, connected with me, and it's as simple as that. And he writes some really interesting things, so it's quite easy. And by being part of different groups, you'll find you start to come across these mentors and these experts, because they will comment in these groups as well. Look at their content, look at their posting habits, look at what they get views for, because you can copy that process and see what they do and learn from what they do. The other thing I'd say as well, as a hint, if ever you post something on LinkedIn, or you share content, or you write your own content, if anybody likes or shares what you've written, respond to it. So if and I'll show you this in a minute. If someone likes your, in fact, actually, let's do that now. Let's do this now. Right. So I'm going to stop showing this. I'm going to take you to my LinkedIn profile, and I'll start to, he says, right, let me see. I've got to get this right. Where is my LinkedIn profile? Where's my LinkedIn profile gone? Right, bear with me just a sec. Let me try. Let me just end that. I think that's why, because I think I had to end that before I could share. Here we go. That's why. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll show you that first. So if I show you, that is my, can you all see that? Hopefully you can see that. If you can't see a screen of my social selling dashboard, please just let me know on the chat window. That's my social selling dashboard. So I'm score 79, and there are 4 sections on the right hand side there. Establish your personal brand, your professional brand, find the right people, engage with insights, build relationships. Now, I guess as I run MRK Associates, and I've got a number of consultants that do a lot of more work than I do on filling the jobs themselves. I do various other different bits and bobs. So when I was actually filling jobs and I was dealing with jobs, my engage with insights and find the right people were much higher, because find the right people, I was searching LinkedIn, looking for candidates for jobs, and I was at 25 with that. Engaging with insights is the groups and getting involved with discussions and inputting, and that's probably the one area I probably should do a little bit more of at the moment, but it's just a bit of time management with everything else going on, running the business and COVID-19 and scenario planning and everything else. So I will get that up, and I want to get that engaged with insights up, because that's how you show you're involved in the market quite a lot. But building relationships, obviously I do a lot of, and establishing our professional brand I do a lot of, because it's important we get MRK's name out and about. So I'm ranked so I think hopefully you can see if I scroll down. So I'm ranked top 1% in my industry, in the recruitment industry, for my social selling score, and then in my network I'm in the top 2%. So I think I'm doing a reasonably good job on LinkedIn and I don't do anything excessive. I just make a few posts, I share a bit of content, and I'm now going to show you, if I do that, could someone just answer this question for me in the chat window? Can you see my actual LinkedIn profile, or are you still on the social selling screen? In fact, answer the question, are you on the social selling screen? You see all black, right, okay. Does that mean, okay, I'll tell you what I will do. Let me do this and go back to it then. Yeah, you can see profile. Right, good, excellent. Right, so a couple of things I'm going to talk you through how we do time, right, half an hour. So I'll try and do this reasonably quickly without rushing too much. So first thing I'm going to do is just nip you down the left-hand side of LinkedIn just to explain this. So you can see here, this is my home page. And you've got a comment here of who viewed your profile. So the first thing you want to keep an eye on is who looked at your profile. It'll show you here all these different people that have looked at it, and this is, I think, a lot of you guys here. And as I go down here, there'll be people like James Woodley, and I'll give you a good example because I looked earlier, and the problem is I can't remember how far down it was. Here we go. For instance, so Roman Zalzewski is the Vice President of Revenue Management from Diamond Resorts. Now, he's a second degree connection for me. And actually, he's a very good point of contact that's relevant for me as a line manager within an employer in revenue management. So I will send him a connection to say, look, you know, saw you looked up my profile, would love to put a relationship in place. Nothing overly elaborate, but just will explain who I am, what I do, and he's looked me up. So he's come to me. So I'll send him a connection. So looking at these, and maybe Phil Smith here at Generator, you know, I will send him a connection to keep building my network, because they've come to me and all I'm doing is wanting to keep in touch. So it's nothing major, but it's when they've come to you, it helps and makes life a lot easier. So if I go back to home, as I go down here, these my pages, they're a very old thing that LinkedIn did originally, wanting companies to have different pages for different things they did. They're a bit redundant now, to be honest, but I want to show you this bit. These on the left hand side here are recent pages I've been in, but more importantly, actually, these are the groups I'm part of. So, and how I find a group, let me give you an example. If you want to find a group for revenue management, what you'll see here in this list, it says revenue management in jobs, revenue management in people, and revenue management in groups. If I click in groups there, you've then just got a whole load of groups about revenue management for different things, in travel, in hotel, in lots of different areas. And you could put different countries or whatever it is. You need to experiment a little bit and see what groups you can find. And you'll see some of them have got very different numbers of members. So you've got revenue management jobs has got 433, and then you've got 28,000 in this one. And I'm a member in this group. So I've gone on here, and then there was a button that would have said something like join the group, I think, or follow. And I've clicked that, and then you wait for people to let you in. And then lots of different content in here, different webinars, different comments people have put, different information people have shared, and you want to join these groups and comment on them. And this is where that in my score it said engage with insights was a bit low, and that's because actually I haven't engaged enough in these groups. So that's groups is definitely something to keep an eye on. Events here, these are other events that are happening that I've saved. Now what you'll find with events is that when you're a member of a number of groups, you'll find out about events because they'll be posted and shared in these groups. And then you can start to join events and join webinars and become part of them. And that helps to build your profile as well. And then hashtags. So I'm going to come on to hashtags in a minute. I'll come on to hashtags because they are really interesting. So I'm on my home page here, but if I click on my face, I go into my actual page. This is my personal profile. And this is what people see when they look me up. Now, a couple of little hints for you here. First hint is edit public profile and URL in the top right-hand corner. When you click on that, hopefully you can see that still, but when you click on that, there's at the top right-hand part of that page, it then says edit your custom URL. What you want to do is make sure your URL is www.linkedin.com/in/ and then put your name or put something very much your name, because LinkedIn will naturally, generally, give you something like, that would have been Roland said 1267 ABC. And it's at one, it's a bit of a mess. And secondly, if you change it to be just your name, you will come up in Google a lot more regularly and a lot more appropriately. I'm not going to show you a Google search of my name because I could do, but by having your name on that URL makes it much better for Google searches when people are trying to find you. So that's the first thing I'd say, is change that URL to be your name and not a load of letters and numbers. Was there anything else I need to say on that particularly? Yeah, okay. So the other thing was, I'll come on to articles in a second, activity I'll come on to in a second. The other thing you have down here are all your groups. So that's the profile. So make sure, I guess one thing I was going to say is, make sure you've got the headline under your name, short and sweet, and explaining what you do. Don't make it too lengthy. The about section should be more of a story, more around how you've got to where you are, how things have developed for you, and what you're doing at the moment. And then your job section should be actually the duties and the achievement of what you're doing in your current job. So the about section is when you write more of a story about yourself and more of a description about how you've got to where you are. Right, and then let's head back to home. Actually, so back on my home page. Let's go back to home. Right, so on home page, couple of little hints for you as well. When you have a post that you quite like, so Jody here from SLG Hotels, if I click the 3 dots on that post, I can do 2 things. One, if I'm busy, I can click save and save it for later, and that's really useful to manage your time. The second thing I can do is click improve feed. If you click improve feed, what you get is a whole host of hashtags and groups and different areas of LinkedIn that you can follow. And that will help you to make sure that your feed, all the posts that you see, are from parts and about subjects that you like and you want. So there'll be things in here that I will follow. I could follow all these different jobs boards. I could follow Shona here, who I know. I could follow the Chancellor of the Exchequer if I wanted economic information. So improve your feed opens up a number of different things that you can follow to improve the type of information you're getting on a day-to-day basis, and it's quite useful. Just trying to think anything I'd say. The other thing I'd probably mention as well, if I go to the top right-hand corner, is you've got a news and views section. This is LinkedIn's own news and views, so it's not revenue management specific. It is just about news that's going on in the world, but it's still not bad to have some content to share. But again, we mentioned that Feedly website earlier. You'll be able to get much more specific revenue management type information from there as well if you need to. Just trying to think. I know what I need to do. Right, back into my profile. Click on my face and back to the dashboard. Here we are. This is what I wanted to show you. So I've done the who viewed your profile. What I've got here is, this is one of the posts I made the other day. And yeah, I thought it was going to do this. Because I went into this earlier preparing for this webinar, what it's done is taken away this comment at the bottom, which shows how many views, because I've gone into it already, so I've already looked at the analysis. But if I go, I'm going to show you another post. So that post was, I saw a post from Amadeus, who are a well-known system within the revenue management world. They had created 4 ebooks, one on sales, one on marketing, one on ops, one on revenue management, and I thought the revenue management one might be interesting for my network, so I posted it. And what I did, as you can see, and I would suggest you do this, is always when you write a post, try and tag 1 or 2 people. Either tag individuals or tag the company themselves, because it will help who it goes to, it will help the network, and people might well share it. And what I had here, you can't see the views, but I had about 2,500 views, I think, or 2,000 views. I can't remember the exact figure, to be honest, but if I look, I had 7 people like it. Most of them my first degree connections. but then also what I had was I had Travel Click themselves like it, who was the company I tagged, and they have 68,000 followers. And I had someone from Amadeus and someone else from Travel Click share it. So it went to their network as well. So you can see how suddenly it goes to much wider networks just by tagging a couple of people in the post. And if I show you one more, so this one's had 2,775 views, and this was an article about recruitment actually generally, and how employers should go about their recruitment processes, and how they should use lockdown to help raise their profile and this sort of thing. So I made a comment and said this is a fair article, you know, blah blah blah, and I put my opinion on it. And then I put a couple of hashtags, which I'll show you in a second. I tagged Natasha. She replied to that. So, well, I thought she did. She did somehow. I don't quite know where it's gone. Why has that not come up? That's interesting. I don't know quite what's happened there. She replied to it, and then I replied to her to say thank you, know, to comment. So that's two of the comments, and then the other two comments are Esther and JJ here. And these are people who've just said, look, great article, really liked it, and I've then liked those comments. So if people comment, either like or reply to them, say, yeah, thanks very much for your compliment, I really appreciate it, and you know, just be pleasant and help build the relationships. So if I go into this post and here, look at this 2,775 views, if I click on that, what this shows me is who has viewed it. Of that 2,500 people, who has viewed it? Can you see, just to check, can you see this pop-up that's come up that says recruiting for your talent pipeline during a pandemic? Can you see the breakdown of the different types of people that have seen it? If someone could just say yes or no. I'm just checking I don't need to share this pop-up. Yes, you can. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So what this does is this shows me all the different companies on the left-hand side that have viewed it. And that says to me that, you know, bearing in mind I've shared that as to how companies should be going about their recruitment. It's not actually a revenue management specific post. But I've got lots of people from IHG, from Hilton, from Almaroos, from Interstate. I mean, arguably, that's hit my perfect market. My perfect target market have looked at that article. I then look at the types of people, the job titles. I've got quite a lot of revenue managers, quite a lot of director level people, quite a lot of recruiters. And location doesn't matter for me on that post. Now, if that had been viewed by people who were completely irrelevant to me, I would have had to think to myself, okay, that's not worked. It's not got to the people I needed that to get to. But I look at that and think, actually, that's been a very successful post. 2,500 views that the hotel sector's really looked at. That's helped build my profile and my thoughts. The other thing, I'm just going to say something else on that as well. So hashtags. So you see I've got 3 hashtags on this post: hashtag revenue management, hashtag recruitment, hashtag talent. I've got 4 actually, to be fair. LinkedIn generally, I would on a normal post I don't put more than 3, but on this post I probably put 4 because I thought actually there's maybe a couple of things I wanted to do, but don't put more than 4. LinkedIn really, if you put more than that, starts to actually knock you down the ranking and your post doesn't appear as high up in the feed. So don't just use 3 or 4 hashtags. Now I'm going to show you some interesting stuff here on hashtags. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. When you write a post, when you're choosing what hashtags to put, I'm just going to show you the difference on this. So we're doing a career planning. If I wrote a post saying we're doing a webinar and I put hashtag career, 450,000 followers of that hashtag. So it would appear in this list. Okay. Now, if I was to put career planning, there's 2,000 followers. So we've called this career planning webinar series. But actually, if I put hashtag career planning on that post when I'm ever talking about it, I basically would hit 2,000. I had the potential to hit 2,000 people, because they're the people following career planning as a hashtag. But if I put career, I get 450,000 people. So the difference in what you write on hashtags is huge. And what I do is Go back into home. When I start a post, if I'm writing a post here and I want to put a hashtag, add hashtag, what I will do is I will, you can write here, but it doesn't tell you how many people are following that. So what I then do is I just open another window and open another link, open up LinkedIn again. And in that, let me then get rid of this. You'd basically discard. You then open another window that looks exactly like this. And in there, you just put in a hashtag. So as an example, if I put in hotel, and this is the difference it makes. If I put in hotel, I've got 66,500 followers that if I put that on my post, I could hit. If I put hotels, goes that there's over 100,000 following hotels. So just putting tiny different things. So when you're writing a post, open another window and open up another LinkedIn, put in the hashtag and have a look how many followers a different hashtag's got. And that will help you choose what to put on your post. As just an example on that as well, without typing it out, if you put in hashtag revenue manager on your post, there's 456 followers, that's all. If you put hashtag revenue management, there's 14,500. So that's the difference. So that makes a big difference to potentially the audience your post gets and the interaction levels of it. So I've gone massively over today and I can never help myself on this topic because I just love it, to be honest. I'm just going to do one last thing here from current slide. That's going to probably take me back to the beginning of that slide. Yes, it is. I thought it would. Scoot through. Right. So the last thing I was going to say, and I've sort of mentioned, is also join associations in the industry. So we've got loads of associations. There's HOSPA, there's RMAPI, there's the Institute of Hospitality, HSMAI, there's the Association of Service Departments. There'll be associations for airlines, for car parking, for all sorts. And you know, join them, find them on LinkedIn, join them, have a look at what events they've got. There might not be face-to-face events at the moment, but there will be in the future. Go to them, build your network, meet people, see when webinars are, join those as well. Because as well as social media, they're a massive part of building a network and building a profile. The final thing I'm going to say is imposter syndrome. So it doesn't matter who you are and at what level you are. I think you always feel, am I qualified enough to be doing this, presentation, to be hosting this webinar, to be going to this event, to be putting my opinion on a LinkedIn post. Imposter syndrome is always where you feel you're maybe out of place and am I knowledgeable, you know, to do what it is I'm doing. You know, I have that. You know, I have that when I do these webinars. You still think to yourself, oh God, do I know enough? Am I right to be doing these webinars? Should I be giving these people advice? But you've got to realize that the research you do, the knowledge you build up over time, no matter how confident you think you are not internally, nobody else knows that when they look at you, when they talk to you. It's only how you feel. And what you'll find is by starting to put an opinion on a post, to starting to get involved with groups, your confidence will build and you will start to feel more in place. Don't overdo it to start with. Make sure you've got your knowledge where it needs to be, get used to things. But your confidence will build over time and everybody feels exactly the same way you do. If you're, you know, thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm senior enough to make a point, or, you know, your opinion matters. Everybody's opinion matters. And, you know, I think don't worry about it. What's the worst going to happen? You're going to put an opinion and someone might say, actually, I think differently. Great. You know, you've got a conversation going. That's what it's all about. So don't worry about it if you're not feeling confident about it. Give it a go and see what happens. So next week, we have about mental health, and don't be too hard on yourself. I've got a great speaker next week who's an expert in this. He's such a genuine guy. He's really honest. He set up his own mental health consultancy because he had mental health problems, and he's so honest about it. And I'm talking to him about what you guys do in revenue management and the type of job and the pressures and the, what you guys, the decisions you have to make and how they rest, your decisions influence heavily how the hotel performs. And he's going to be talking about how to manage that sort of process, that mindset, that, also thinking about if you set yourself career goals, don't be too hard on yourself if they don't quite go to plan. We all have times where things don't go to plan, and he's going to really talk through that next week. And he's a really good guy. So please do come along next week, because I think it'll be really useful. Our mental health is becoming more and more important all the time. So one last challenge I'm going to set you all. We're talking about social media. If I'm not linked in with you after this, please go back to LinkedIn, send me an invite. Let's link in. Let's be a connection. Let's build our network. And what I would love you to do, if you want to, you don't have to, but it would be massive for you. And also it would help you start to build your profile, is go on LinkedIn and just write something along the lines of, hopefully, if you feel it, that how good these career planning webinars have been. Tag me, tag MRK Associates, and just say you felt they've been really, valuable to you. Put a couple of hashtags, look up the hashtags, get used to doing that. And I will then like them and I'll share them so they go to all of my network as well and start to build your profile in the market. And it's a good place to start. So if you don't mind, let's try and see if we can, get a bit of profile for these career webinars. They help as well. If I go to these associations, I'm going to try and standardize these webinars a bit, maybe do them each year for new people. I'm going to send you guys a certificate for we haven't quite finished them yet, but I'm going to send a certificate to you guys for finishing them when we do. I'm going to try and get one or two of the associations to actually see this as being a beneficial career plan and part of your career plan. And if we can get maybe one or two of the associations to back it, then actually we might make it a bit more of a proper course for people. We might make it hour-long session, might make, say, 3 or 4 hour-long sessions where people get a proper certificate, and it's recognized hopefully maybe by HOSPA or whatever else. So raising the profile of what we've done now would be really useful to perhaps try and help that down the line. Just thinking, have I got a couple of people mention something on the chat there? Has anyone got questions? So, how useful is LinkedIn Premium for an average user? Yeah, okay, good question. I can't remember how much LinkedIn Premium is. Now, LinkedIn Premium does give you extra. You can see more information around who's viewed your profile. You can get access to more. You have first degree connections of the people you're connected to. You have second degree connections who are their first degree connections. And then you have third degree connections who are further afield. I don't think you guys can see third degree connections without a premium account. So the question is, how active are you going to be on LinkedIn? I think I'd say 2 things. Go to your company, go to your employer and ask them if they'll pay for to have a premium account. Okay, that's the first thing. They're not a lot of money. For a company, they're nothing. They're not a lot of money. And they might see the company might see the value in you being more active on social media. As I said, you're representing the company and you will be putting their name, into these discussions. So they might well pay for it for you. So ask them. Other than that, it really is a personal decision based on how much money you've got spare and you want to spend and how much time you're going to spend on LinkedIn. It does give you advantages and it does allow you to see more of your network. But when I started MRK quite a few years ago, I didn't get a premium account for probably 6 or 9 months till I'd started getting the revenue in, because actually I felt I didn't need it and I could get away with it without. The other thing I would say, and I haven't gone into this here, if you don't have a LinkedIn Premium account, you can do Google, what are called Google X-ray searches, where actually you can search LinkedIn profiles from a Google search, just from being in Google. But you have to write there's a specific way of writing that search. And I'm not talking about search today because it's a whole nother topic. But if you Google LinkedIn X-ray search, or Google LinkedIn X-ray search, I think is the actual you want us to, it will tell you how to use Google to search LinkedIn, and then you don't need a premium account. But I would try and get your employers to pay for it. So if we haven't got any other questions, I hope that's been useful, guys. As I said, look, please write something on social media. Get used, tag me in, tag MRK in, put in the hashtags, get used to writing that type of post. I'll share it and we'll get you some exposure and start you off. And join the groups. Yeah, look, let's see what we can do. And I'm always here to help. If you want any advice on it, please just give me a shout, and I'm more than happy to help at any time. No problems at all. So I hope that's useful. I love this topic. I find it really fun, and have fun with it. Enjoy it. So yeah, good luck everyone. And if you need any advice or thoughts, please do let me know. I'm more than happy to help. So see you all soon. Hopefully next week. See you next week. Bye.